Hi again, fellas, and welcome back to Quite with a Y. Today I want to talk to you about bathroom etiquette. There's a lot of different versions of bathroom etiquette. There's how do you share one with family? If there's only one bathroom but you have a roommate to make rent work in this economy, it's who takes a shower when? Do you pee in the shower? Is this going to cause problems? There's a lot going on, but today I want to talk about etiquette in public restrooms. One specific part of it, if you yourself are a penis haver or have been a penis haver at any point, someone who pees when you stand up, then you have been in this situation at some point in your life. You walk into a public restroom and you see just the rows of toilets, all the urinals on the wall, and not all of them are taken. That's great. You don't have to wait in a line. You can go right up there and let your lasers fly. But it's actually a catch-22. You see, there are already two people at those urinals. There is a genuine meta and rule set you need to be aware of when entering into a situation like this. You have to be able to tell from the placement of the people at the urinals versus how many urinals there are, which is the appropriate one to claim as your own. This is a question that has gotten asked a lot over history, and many websites have set up quizzes for different configurations of people peeing at urinals that you have to determine where to pee. This first one is fairly easy. We're going with a 7-toilet setup for this entire video and different combinations on that 7-toilet setup. There are currently 5 urinals open and 2 of them are occupied currently with people pissing. There's a toilet free on the edges and 3 in the middle. What do you pick? I want you to lock in your answers. We're going to label the free toilets from left to right 1 through 5. Alright, did you pick 1, the toilet on the far left? Wrong. You'd also be incorrect if you picked anything but the middle toilet. One part of this toilet setup I left out on purpose earlier was that there are no dividers or barriers between urinals to give people who are peeing even shoulder to shoulder some semblance of privacy. There's no folders you have to put up to block your answers on the test like in elementary school. If you're pissing right next to someone and you move your head even slightly to the right, you're probably going to see their wiener in your peripheral vision, which I don't think either of you want. If you choose the middle urinal, it ensures that there is a urinal of space between you and both other people peeing. You stagger the whole thing so that you can maximize the amount of people able to piss while also maximizing your comfort. I'll be honest though, if you wanted to maintain that rule of at least 1 urinal between 2 people, there's a better way to maximize this, and it's kind of on whoever decided to pee in here first. One of these guys got here before the other, and either they had a configuration of the urinals where they had to pee where they're peeing right now, or they were the first person to see these urinals on the current cycle, and they chose to go to the second urinal over from either side. When if they were to go to the farthest on either side, they would be able to stagger a person every 2 urinals much more efficiently. With the current setup, you can only have 3 people peeing while still separated by like 3 feet, when you could have 4 if the 2 people seen here had decided to pee on the edges. Do you see how quickly this whole thing can get complicated? There's a lot of moving parts you have to keep track of when you're deciding where to piss, and you have to do it very quickly, because if you just stand there watching people pee, you're probably gonna come off a little weird. Even weirder than if you were to go up to a person and pee right next to them when there are clearly open urinals next to nobody available. Alright, which urinal would you pee in? There's 2 people once again. One dude is at the second urinal from the left, and the other dude is 2 urinals from the right. Still 5 options, left to right, 1 through 5. You might be tempted to say 1 is the correct one, or that none of this matters and I'm an idiot, but trust me, if you've been in this situation, you get it. The correct toilet to pee in is the one on the far right. An important concept to understand moving forward is that when choosing a urinal to pee in, one thing you're not only trying to do is not stand next to someone else peeing unnecessarily, but also the amount of people standing next to each other peeing in any one cluster. You pick the toilet all the way on the right because it leaves a toilet between you and the guy to your left. If you were to pick either of the toilets between the 2 people already pissing, then you would end up shoulder to shoulder with someone when you didn't need to. Not only are you inconveniencing yourself by peeing next to someone when you didn't have to, but you're also messing up the quality of their peeing experience by getting up all in their business when you don't need to. Now this is where that clustering thing I was talking about comes from, because we are finally upping the amount of people you have to maneuver around when pissing. 4 of the 7 toilets are taken up, man. That's the majority. We were working with like an excess of urinals to use the past. Okay, so there are 2 people pissing on the very far left. There's 1 guy pissing on the very far right urinal, and then there's 1 urinal between him and the other guy pissing to his left. Which of these toilets do you take? 1 through 3, left through right? Some of you might say there's 2 correct answers. Pick either of the urinals between the guys in the middle. Either way, you're going to be shoulder to shoulder pissing with someone, one, but at least you're only having to share space with one person, where if you were to get on the toilet on the right, you would be sandwiching yourself between two pissers for no reason. The thing is, there is a correct answer between the middle options. You should pick the urinal in the exact middle, urinal number 2. You see, for you, the situation doesn't change much whichever urinal you take. It just depends if you care more about rubbing your left or right shoulder with somebody. But if you were to take the left urinal, you would be unnecessarily sandwiching someone else. With urinal etiquette, you need to be considerate enough to not only make sure you are peeing at an optimal spot, but also that you are not unnecessarily inconveniencing someone else who is doing the best with what they have. You're creating the same situation you would be in if you took the urinal on the far right, except you're putting that pain onto someone else who was pissing there before you. The two incorrect options will leave you with a cluster of 3 people shoulder to shoulder, which is what we're trying to avoid. Whereas if you take the middle urinal, you will have 2 pairs of 2 people standing next to each other peeing, and a 5th who gets a urinal space in between him and the next closest guy. It's not perfect, but you're no worse off for it than if you took the urinal one to the left, and it's harm reduction, which is important to take measures regarding. Harm reduction is important where even if you can't solve the problem outright, you minimize the amount of damage it can cause through any necessary means. Alright, this next one has another 4 people, and the answer to this one is actually the same as the last. You pick the middle option, except now you are mostly reaping the benefits of doing so. This type of configuration is unlikely to form when you first walk in a bathroom. It's likely that more of the toilets were taken up before this than are now, and the clumps of 2 you see on the left and right were formed out of necessity of the previous toilet configuration and got carried over to this new cycle because the other guys didn't finish before you came in. Like I said, take the middle toilet. It gives you space on both the left and right sides, and you don't have to clump up with anybody. A real piece of work would make a group of 3 on either side just to mess with the person they're sandwiching in between them. You may notice this behavior intentionally in straight friend groups that act very gay with each other, which is how you know they're actually straight. This is harmless banter and generally not a problem as long as everybody washes their hands and whatever else they touch together immediately after doing so, but this can have a more negative slant and be intended to harm others, so be careful when you see this in public. Okay, we have another one, and honestly I think this one takes the difficulty down a little bit. You have this lone pisser, a solo man who goes his own way, peeing into a urinal 1 away from the left. There are 6 options here. It almost feels like the world is your oyster. You have so many things you could be peeing in. The obviously wrong choice is the toilet on the far left, because A, we're going to pee next to the guy who is already there for no reason when there's a lot of open space, and B, because if there's a wall to your left, you're sandwiching yourself for no reason. I'd say the one on the far right is the correct choice in these circumstances. It gets the 2 people peeing as far away from each other to do their business as possible, and with the dude already at his urinal, you taking the urinal on the far right enables the most amount of people coming in before you're done pissing to be able to go to a urinal of their own while maximizing comfort. If it's only one person, they can still stagger the toilets like you were doing before, but if it's more than one, you can at least have some people that have a urinal between them. It's not ideal, it's not optimal, but it's the best omelet you could make with the eggs you were given. They cost $50 now, by the way. Okay, you know, this one's interesting. And here we have people in the configuration we saw in our first urinal prompt. Originally, we were the guy who chose to pee in the middle toilet in this scenario. Now, we're a 4th person intruding in on these people. Full stop, you should not be taking either of the middle options. Either one puts you shoulder to shoulder with more people than you need to, and it creates a cluster of 3. Just very unaesthetic and unideal. Either of the urinals on the far end are the correct choice in this scenario. It's kind of up to preference at that point. The things that I consider when walking into a bathroom is which of the end urinals is closer to the entrance I came through, or which of these urinals is closer to the sink. Sometimes the answer to both of these questions is the same urinal, others they are completely opposite. It depends on what you value more, getting out of there fast, or if you like washing your hands, doing that first and then getting out of there fast. Okay, and here we have a spicy one for our finale. Another group of 4 at the urinals, 2 on the center, 1 on each edge. Alright, I'm gonna let you guys answer out loud, and I think you've learned a lot by now. I think you know the correct answer to which one you should be going to. Alright, decide what you think the answer is. The one you go to is the toilet second to the right. Yes, you have to stand shoulder to shoulder with someone, but it leaves some space on your left and manages to not create a clump of 3 where there doesn't have to be. If you answered with that one, congrats, you have learned well. If this was something you've never thought about before when going to piss, I hope you get anxiety about it whenever you have to pee in public now, and I hope you guys enjoyed my take on the subject. Anyways, that's all I got. If you guys want to send me topics, that kwytebox@gmail.com email is up. Anyways, yeah, that's it. Piss off.